everyone, welcome back to Moby's Kitchen. Tonight we're gonna be making one of my favorites, smoked tri-tip. We're gonna trim it up, we're gonna get it seasoned, and then put it out on the smoker and finish it on the grill. It's gonna be delicious. Okay, so this is about a 3.5 or so pound tri-tip, untrimmed. Now you can buy them at the supermarket or at your butcher and have them trimmed. I like to buy mine untrimmed and trim it myself. That way I can control how much fat stays behind, because fat is flavor and you do want the fat to protect your meat in the smoker. So we're gonna start on the top side here. As you can see, the bottom side has a fat cap on it. I'm gonna trim this down slightly on the bottom side in a moment, but let's start on the top. And we wanna just be very careful with your knife. You're gonna wanna get under these little, try to cut as little of the meat off as possible and just get these little fat pieces here. Any of the silver skin, as you can see, there's a little silver skin on this side that runs along the back. You don't want that on there. That's gonna prevent your seasoning from getting in. Some of it will just kind of fall off, but you wanna get a knife kind of underneath that silver skin. If you take a tiny bit of meat with it, it's fine, but obviously we wanna reserve as much of the meat as possible. You wanna get under that, get all that silver skin off, and just keep going until you have a fairly clean piece of meat. Okay, when we get to the back side here, the bottom side, we want to leave a lot of this fat on. I like to just kind of even it out, get some of this like real sort of loose fat that's up here on the top. Kind of cut it down, because not all this is going to render, but this is going to protect your meat in the smoker and on the grill, and it adds some nice flavor into the meat, so it keeps it nice and juicy. So we're going to take maybe about 1/3 of a layer off of this fat. We don't want to cut all the way through to the meat. If you do by accident in some spots, it's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything. But as you can see, all this isn't gonna render down, but it is gonna provide some nice flavor. So just go through and just kind of cut it. See that I went a little low there, but it's okay. We'll be fine. All right, some of this is like the hard chunky fat. That's just not gonna render down. So that's probably good. We don't wanna mess with it too much. Now we're ready to go. Okay, so next up, we're gonna season our meat here. We're gonna start with a little bit of avocado oil or olive oil, whatever your favorite is. I like to use avocado for this one. Just rub it on there. This simply helps the seasoning bind to the meat. I love using Pappy seasoning here. You can get this at the grocery store, at least around where I am. It's delicious. It's a Santa Maria style seasoning. Kind of, that's the birthplace of the tri-tip, Santa Maria style. So I like this stuff, but you can use your favorite barbecue seasoning. Everyone's got their favorite. Pretty much anything that goes well on steak is gonna go well on tri-tip. So we're gonna liberally season here. This has some good chunky salt, pepper in it, and some salt, and some little bit of sugar, some paprika. This is a big piece of meat, so don't be shy with the seasoning here. Kind of pat it in, give it another little dose. And don't forget the sides too. So you can kind of mop up what's on your board here, the sides. I like to just kind of hold it up, get the sides, get the back side here. And then we flip it over and do the same thing. Even though it's the fat cap, you can see some of it soaked up on the board there. Just give it a light coating. Pat it in. And then what you want to do, now this has been out of the fridge for about 30 minutes to temper. You want this about room temperature before you put it on. It'll cook more evenly. I'm going to let it sit for about another 20 minutes and soak in the salts, and you'll see it'll kind of develop, like it'll start to glisten a little bit. You'll know it's ready when it gets that look. So about 20 minutes, let the seasoning soak in. I'm going to go outside and get the smoker turned on to 225 degrees Fahrenheit, that is. And it's going to be very delicious, and we'll be out there in a moment, and I'll show you how we put it on. Okay, so we've been waiting here for about 20 minutes with our seasoning soaking in. As you can see, it's starting to kind of glisten. That means the salt's kind of absorbing into the meat and it's pushing some of the moisture out. That's gonna create a nice crust in the smoker. We've also got my meter in. If you don't know what a meter is, you definitely need to go check these out online. It's MEATER, I believe. It's a Bluetooth thermometer that will basically tell you, you can set it on your phone, how hot you want your center to be, and it'll tell you the center of the meat hot, the ambient temperature. It's really great. So check out meters. This is gonna tell me, I'm gonna cook this to 135 internal, and then we're gonna take it off and put it on the actual grill to give it a nice little crust on the outside. All right, so next time we see you, we'll be out at the smoker. Okay, folks, we're out at the smoker here. We're gonna put our tri-tip on, kind of push it together so we get some more even cooking, because this, like the tip here tends to cook faster because it's a little thinner. So we like to kind of bunch it up, get it laid out on there on the smoker. And we're gonna put our lid down, and our meter will tell us when it's ready. We're looking for a 135 internal. Okay, so our meter is telling us that we've hit 135 degrees Fahrenheit internal on the, it's a little cold out here as you can see, on the tri-tip, and we're gonna take it out of the smoker now. We're gonna put it on a preheated grill. We did a nice like medium high heat because we want to sear this off. Now, if you don't like medium rare on your tri-tip, you want to go more to medium, then cook it to about 145. In my opinion, tri-tip needs to be medium rare, medium at most. So somewhere in between there. Now, if you like it well done and you want to completely make it more like a leathery piece of meat, then you can do that. But medium rare for me is good. So we're going to take our beautiful tri-tip here, and I like to flip it over. So we were cooking fat side down in the grill. Put it at an angle so you get some nice grill marks on there. So we're at about a medium high heat. You could do even high heat on this to get a nice sear. And we're gonna cook this off, and I'll show you at the end. This probably took about an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes to get to 135 internal. So we're gonna grill this off, you know, probably for about, I don't know, 3-4 minutes each side till we get a nice little crust, and then we're gonna be done. Okay, so we've been on for about 3 minutes. We're gonna rotate our tri-tip so we get some nice grill marks, a little crosshatch action. You can see if you have some flare-ups, you can always pour a little water or some beer if you're drinking one on that. We're gonna give it another 2 or 3 minutes like that, and we'll get a nice little pattern, then we're gonna flip it. Okay, so we've got this off the grill now. We flipped it. And just be careful when you flip on the other side with the fat layer that you watch the flame, because it can flare up as that fat melts off. But we got a nice char on the top here, and we're gonna let this rest. This is very key. Let this rest for 15 to 20 minutes before you cut into it. Let the juices redistribute. We're gonna cut into it shortly. I'll show you the best way to cut into tri-tip because there's grains that go kind of in different directions. So we'll show you that in a moment. All right, folks, it's time to cut into this. I can't wait anymore. It's been about 15 minutes. Just as it rested, look at the juice that we've caught. That, I like to kind of get it off the edge of the cutting board before it runs onto the counter. And I like to kind of redistribute this once we cut. It's so good, so flavorful. So tri-tip, a lot of people cut this wrong. They'll just start cutting this way. But if you look at the grain, you want to cut against the grain. So we've got a grain on this section of the tri-tip that runs in the direction that I'm showing the knife here. And then this section, it kind of runs more like in this direction. So there's a split where it kind of turns, where the muscle turns. So we want to cut that first, and then we can cut our separate pieces against the grain. So we cut right about here is where that grain turns. Get a nice sharp knife, and you can see here, beautiful pink there, nice medium rare. And you know, if you have people in your party that are eating that don't like it as medium rare as that, you can give them these in pieces. And then what we're gonna do is let's start with this piece here. As you can see, the grain's running this way. So we wanna cut against that grain. Let's start on this edge. So our grain's running like this. And we're gonna cut, I like nice thin slices. You can cut them as thick as you want, but you'll see we're gonna put my wife's delicious salsa on this. So a nice thin piece. Now you can cut them thicker if you want them, and it's just as good. But you know, we're gonna have definitely leftover tri-tip here, and it makes for some delicious tacos or anything you can imagine. So let me get this cut up and I'll show you. So this piece cuts like that, as you can see. This other piece, we've got our our grain running kind of in this direction. And we're gonna wanna cut against the grain going this way. So we're gonna cut this whole thing up. I'm probably gonna leave a little bit behind because once you cut it, kind of more juice comes out. Let's try a piece. Let's grab a good piece here. Let's dip it on some of those cutting board juices. You can't beat that. And you can see it, it's just beautiful. Let's give it a shot. Oh, it's so tender and juicy. Like I can't explain to you how much juice is in this. This is the best way to cook it. It's got a smoky flavor, just the right amount of smoke, not too much. It's so delicious. And you know, I'm just thinking, let me go grab some of that salsa and I'll show you what that looks like on here. I'll be right back with you. Okay, folks, so I'm gonna show you this beautiful salsa that my wife's come up with. I wanted her to make kind of a chunky salsa to go with tri-tip because salsa goes so good with this. So the recipe's below. We've got this on the channel here so you can take a look on how to make this. This goes good with pretty much anything. You can even eat it with chips. It's a little chunkier, so it's nice. I've got one set up here, but I'm just gonna take a little spoonful and you put it right over the meat and it just adds so much flavor. I mean, the meat's good by itself, but this just kind of takes it to another level. And let's take a bite of this. That onion flavor, the tomatoes coming through with that perfectly cooked tri-tip. I just can't explain to you. You have to make this at home. It's not too complicated. It's actually fairly simple if you have the time to do it and wait for that hour and a half while your smoker cooks. If you don't have a smoker, you could do it in the oven, but once again, like I always say, the smoker is key. So make this at home. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Please like and subscribe. We've got more videos coming your way.